third episode begins with dueling voiceovers from Erica Ortegas and Montgomery Scott, each politely explaining why they can't stand working with the other. Their frustrations sound professional on the surface, but it's obvious the two have been clashing for some time. Captain Pike notices the growing tension among his officers and decides the crew needs a break before their upcoming diplomatic mission. He announces that the Enterprise will make a stop at the luxurious Cessnar Grand, a resort famous for being completely free of technology. Visitors must disconnect from their devices and instead enjoy an unusual atmosphere that causes everyone to experience the resort in a unique, dreamlike way. Although Uhura and Scotty worry about leaving work behind, Pike reminds them that the Rodaxian peace negotiations aren't scheduled for another 2 weeks, giving everyone plenty of time for a relaxing vacation. Even before the shuttle lands, the planet's strange atmosphere begins affecting the passengers. Colors become distorted, reality feels warped, and everyone starts acting oddly. The story then jumps ahead, with Ortegas waking up inside a trashed hotel room that looks as if a wild party has taken place overnight. She has no memory of what happened after arriving. A Tribble wanders through the room. Scotty is unconscious after wearing a ridiculous Mugato-themed costume, and Ortegas discovers her arm is somehow broken and wrapped in a cast. Before either of them can piece together the missing hours, the resort's cheerful coordinator, Dendru, arrives carrying an envelope meant for Captain Pike. Since technology isn't allowed on the resort, he asks Ortegas to deliver it personally. Realizing Scotty is far too intoxicated to be left alone, she reluctantly drags him along while hoping to hand him over to Pike as quickly as possible. Their search begins at Spock's room. Pike isn't there, but Spock is behaving strangely himself. He insists he isn't drunk despite talking nonstop and claiming he keeps seeing James Kirk, who shouldn't even be there. After sending Ortegas and Scotty to check on Uhura, Kirk actually appears moments later, confirming Spock wasn't imagining everything after all. Their warm greeting hints that the bond they formed previously has grown even stronger. Uhura proves to be no help either. She has fully embraced the resort's atmosphere, dancing around in a sparkling outfit and enjoying every second of her vacation. When Ortegas asks about Pike, Uhura simply refuses to take responsibility for Scotty because it doesn't fit her personal journey. She sends them away with instructions to come back later carrying cookies. Things become even stranger when Scotty wanders off again. Ortegas eventually finds him inside the resort bar, where Number One is enthusiastically performing Total Eclipse of the Heart in flawless Vulcan while wearing an outrageous rainbow boa. She's apparently signed up to perform 15 more Vulcan power ballads, creating one of the episode's funniest moments. Behind the bar stands Dr. Mbenga, who has abandoned medicine for the day and happily taken a job mixing drinks. Free from the constant pressure of saving lives, he's enjoying himself more than anyone else on the planet. Unlike the rest of the crew, he actually knows where Pike is and points Ortegas toward a tattoo parlor. There they discover Captain Pike calmly getting a tattoo, completely unconcerned about the official message waiting for him. He's even considering tattooing his face and jokes that matching tattoos for the entire Enterprise crew would drive Uhura crazy. Only after casually opening the envelope does everything suddenly change. The note reveals the Rodaxian diplomats aren't arriving in 2 weeks as expected. They're arriving aboard the Enterprise in only 2 hours. Pike immediately orders everyone back to the ship while assuring Ortegas he will gather the scattered crew. Unfortunately, he also insists Scotty stay with her because he enjoys watching the two spend time together. Ortegas isn't thrilled, but she has no choice except to drag the still-confused engineer toward the shuttle. Their problems quickly multiply when they reach the Valley station and discover the shuttle has disappeared. The attendant explains that Scotty collected its access chip earlier that day, though he has absolutely no memory of doing so. Scotty suggests locating the shuttle with a tricorder, only to remember that he secretly brought one onto the resort and accidentally left it aboard the missing shuttle. Desperate, they return to Uhura and convince her to hand over her hidden tricorder, but disaster strikes almost immediately. Scotty carelessly tosses the device toward Ortegas without looking. Instead of catching it, She watches helplessly as it sails over the balcony, crashes several floors below, and shatters into pieces. With their only tracking device destroyed, Ortegas concludes they must hack into the resort's central security network instead. The problem is obvious. Scotty is far too intoxicated to handle the job. That leaves only one possible solution: asking Spock for help despite his own unusual mental state. The search for the missing shuttle leads Ortegas and Scotty back to Spock, who worries he may not be thinking clearly enough to help. Ortegas reassures him that, despite his unusual behavior, he is still the smartest person available. Inside the resort's central office, they expect to find a computer, but instead discover only a strange plant. Believing it is somehow connected to the resort's network, Spock performs a mind meld with the plant. Against all logic, it works. Through the psychic connection, he locates the stolen shuttle hidden in the northern part of the resort, guarded by a gang of thieves. Spock recommends bringing La'an for protection, but decides to stay behind because he has started seeing Ortegas and Scotty as plants and realizes he needs to rest. Meanwhile, Kirk joins Spock, and the normally reserved Vulcan unexpectedly opens up. Having never had a true human best friend, Spock finds himself discussing hopes, fears, and dreams with Kirk while still wondering whether his companion is real or simply another hallucination. Elsewhere, La'an has transformed a peaceful relaxation class into an intense martial arts lesson. Ortegas recruits her to recover the shuttle, and La'an quickly intimidates the thieves by beating their leader in a fight before calmly taking command of the group. As proof of her victory, she even retrieves Scotty's colorful Hawaiian shirt from one of the criminals. Behind a large billboard, the trio finally discovers the damaged shuttle. Since the access chip is missing, the thieves were unable to sell it. While examining the controls, Ortegas accidentally strikes the console, causing the systems to briefly power up. That sparks an important realization. The missing access chip has been hidden inside the cast on her broken arm all along. Before they can celebrate, masked kidnappers capture all three of them and tie them to chairs. After waking, Scotty panics and believes his eyes have been stolen. While struggling free, Ortegas finally admits she unfairly blamed him for everything that had gone wrong. Scotty calmly explains that growing up with 6 brothers meant he was almost always blamed whenever something went wrong, so he simply assumed history was repeating itself. Ortegas confesses she often blamed her brother Beto for her own frustrations, even when he wasn't responsible. Their captor turns out to be Dendru, who simply followed the bizarre instructions the intoxicated pair had given him earlier. They had actually asked him to keep them away from the shuttle, even if he had to tie them up. Dendru offers one last piece of advice, explaining that anger is always a choice. People can hold on to it, let it ruin their lives, or understand where it truly comes from. He then directs them to Room C. Inside, Chapel has become fiercely competitive during a bingo tournament, threatening elderly players while refusing to lose. La'an's newly recruited gang eagerly prepares for a fight until Ortegas pulls her away, leaving Chapel dramatically calling for revenge. Scotty gathers Chapel, and the exhausted crew finally returns to the Enterprise. Everyone still appears hungover. Number 1 is wearing the same outrageous rainbow bow-e from karaoke, while Pike has actually gone through with his face tattoo. Despite their condition, they have only minutes before welcoming the Rodaxian diplomats aboard. Pike reminds everyone they represent Starfleet and must behave professionally, though Number 1 doubts the resort's effects have completely worn off. While Pike and Number 1 greet the visitors, Ortegas heads to the shuttle bay and discovers Scotty quietly repairing the damaged craft. During the repairs, she finally admits the real source of her resentment. She always dreamed of becoming an engineer, but never felt talented enough, eventually finding success as a pilot instead. Seeing Scotty excel in engineering constantly reminded her of that disappointment. Scotty reveals he experienced the opposite situation. He failed as a pilot before discovering his true talent in engineering, making them realize they had far more in common than either expected. Their heartfelt reconciliation is interrupted when Scotty removes part of the console and discovers a hidden bomb. Worse still, his hands are keeping the explosive stable. If he lets go, it will detonate immediately. Ortegas rushes to warn Pike, but cannot interrupt the delicate peace negotiations. She quietly informs Uhura about the bomb, only to realize Uhura is still too affected by the resort's atmosphere to react properly. Fortunately, Spock pieces together the misunderstanding after overhearing fragments of the conversation about an avocado problem. Using what he jokingly calls reverse human logic, he realizes they are actually dealing with a bomb. Reviewing a recording left by the intoxicated Ortegas and Scotty, he learns they had discovered someone sabotaged the shuttle before they lost their memories. Spock determines the explosive is powerful enough to destroy the Enterprise. The only solution is for Scotty to fly the shuttle away while Ortegas pilots, giving Spock enough time to beam them back before the bomb explodes. As Spock prepares the transporter, Kirk appears once again. Believing he is still hallucinating, Spock ignores him until Kirk proves his existence with a sharp slap across the face. Back aboard the shuttle, Ortegas tells Scotty she believes they would have become close friends under different circumstances. Their sincere exchange is cut short as the countdown reaches its final moments. The shuttle races away from the Enterprise before erupting in a spectacular explosion that fills space with brilliant colors. Spock successfully transports Ortegas and Scotty back only moments before the blast. Scotty survives but loses one finger in the explosion, immediately heading to sickbay for treatment. Unexpectedly, the Rhodaxian diplomats interpret the colorful detonation as their ancient, formal rite of peace, a ceremonial display that has not been performed in generations because of its enormous cost and danger. Convinced Starfleet arranged the magnificent display in their honor, both Rhodaxian factions are deeply moved. The delegates immediately agree to continue the peace negotiations, while Pike and his officers hide their complete confusion and gratefully accept the diplomatic victory. Later, the crew gathers in the bar to compare stories and reconstruct everything they did while under the resort's influence. They discover the strange costumes came from an accidental visit to a costume party, and Ortegas and Scotty unknowingly consumed an entire dose of a powerful party drug that had been meant for dozens of guests. The Rhodaxian militant responsible for planning the bomb has already been arrested,